Recently, I've noticed that some are trying to claim that Lethal Weapon isn't a Christmas movie. Are you all out of your ever-loving minds? Lethal Weapons is the retelling of It's a Wonderful Life that just happens to be wrapped in the trappings of a 1980s action movie.
Architectural Outcast.
I'm Randy, and you're watching The Architectural Outcast. You doubt me? Well, what's the story of It's a Wonderful Life? We have a man who has lost all hope. He is bitter and resentful, full of regrets. He bemoans that the world would have been a better place if he had never been born, and he plans to throw himself off a bridge on Christmas Eve. But before the man could make that final leap, he was saved by an angel, and that angel was able to show him that actually no. Due to his kindness, dedication, and self-sacrifice, he had made the world a much better place. The man came to realize he had the most precious treasure all along, his family. There's a reason why this movie continues to resonate with audiences almost 100 years later. Family, family, family. The naysayers will claim just because it takes place during Christmas doesn't make Lethal Weapon a Christmas movie. You weren't paying attention to the story now, were you? Let's start with Riggs. At the beginning of the movie, we have a man that is broken and at the end of his rope. He's lost all hope. We learn that his wife died in a tragic car accident on Christmas Eve the year before. In addition to his grief, Riggs is racked with guilt and remorse. The reason why she was in that car all by herself on Christmas Eve? He was working late on a case. Riggs can't bear to be reminded of his wife. It's way too painful. That's why he's abandoned his home and now lives in that squalid little trailer. But he can't get away from her memory during the holiday season. It's everywhere he looks because Christmas was her favorite holiday. And the icing on the cake of this tragedy? Riggs didn't know she was pregnant. She was planning on telling him on Christmas Eve, the same Christmas Eve he missed because he was working late. He feels like that if he'd been there, he could have prevented the tragedy from happening, and he would have known he was going to be a father. This puts the Christmas tree lot scene into a whole new light. If his wife hadn't been killed in that car wreck, he should be out picking out a tree with his wife and newborn baby, not busting some scumbag drug dealers. That's why he snaps. So when he shouts, shoot me," he means it. That's why he freaks out at the end after the bad guys are hauled away. He didn't expect to survive. And then you have that heart-wrenching scene in the squalid little trailer where he almost ends it. But despite the despair and complete lack of hope, something stops him. Something compels him to keep fighting, to keep moving forward. In the shootout at the mansion turned drug den, we get a glimpse of how lethal Riggs can be. But notice the look of pain on his face when Murtaugh yells at him, "Do you kill everybody you meet?" Riggs covers it up pretty quickly with a quip, "I didn't kill you," but then he mutters under his breath, "Yet." He thinks he's responsible for his wife's death. And then there's the scene outside of Murtaugh's house, where Riggs tells him the only thing he's ever been good at in life is killing. There's an implication that Riggs thinks the world would be better off with one less killer. What ultimately saves Riggs is Murtaugh, and more importantly, Murtaugh's family. Murtaugh is a good and decent man with a good and decent family. They're a very stereotypical suburban middle-class family with all its foibles and flaws. First couple times Riggs is around that family, it's painful. He's getting to see what he could have had and what now he will never have. Riggs and Murdaugh's investigation leads them to the main baddies, Shadow Company. Mercenaries so ruthless, they're willing to use families to accomplish their goals. Shadow Company eventually captures Riggs, Murtaugh, and Murtaugh's daughter. Riggs realizes Murtaugh might be a good and decent man, but under these circumstances, he's not capable of protecting his family. But Riggs is. And when Riggs sees what Shadow Company has done to Murtaugh and Murtaugh's daughter, he truly loses it. He becomes the lethal weapon. There's going to be hell to pay. Riggs leaves a path of death and destruction behind him that culminates in the final fight scene between him and Mr. Joshua. That battle that takes place in front of Murtaugh's suburban home amongst the Christmas ornaments, that's symbolism that comes straight out of the old westerns. The lone hero who's willing to step up and protect the innocent from vicious killers. Oftentimes, these lone heroes are killers themselves. They recognize they will never have the clapboard house, the white picket fence, the pretty wife, and the cute kids. But they're willing to sacrifice themselves to ensure those who do have those things can live in peace without fearing for their lives. Reference, Shane. This symbolism is also represented in the final scene. Riggs and Murtaugh standing outside of Murtaugh's house. The warm light of a home spilling out into the darkness. The sounds of a happy family calling to their husband, calling to their father, wanting him to come participate with the family. And Murtaugh's hesitating. He very much wants to participate with his family, but he doesn't want to abandon his friend who has sacrificed so much for the safety of his family. But Riggs says, go enjoy your family. Riggs has found his purpose in life. Family is so important to Riggs that even though he may not be able to have his own family, he can be the lone watchman in the night, standing guard so that Murtaugh's family can be safe and all the other families can be safe. Now let's talk about Murtaugh for a little bit. At the beginning of the movie, he's going through a midlife crisis. He's respected with a successful career. He has a loving wife and a wonderful family, but he's taking it all for granted. He's wanting to take early retirement because he has a sense he's missing out on something. As represented by his boat, he doesn't know what he wants, he doesn't know how to get it, and he wouldn't know what to do with it once he got it, but he wants more. And then he meets Riggs, and he sees the consequences of losing your family. And then he almost loses his own family. He reevaluates his priorities, and he realizes he already has everything he needs, his family. And you look at that final scene from Murtaugh's perspective. Murtaugh is a dangerous man in his own right. He's very capable of protecting his family, but he's willing to go into that house because he knows that under the rare circumstances that he can't, he doesn't need to be afraid because there's somebody out there that evil needs to fear. Like It's a Wonderful Life, Lethal Weapon doesn't end with everybody living happily ever after. They end with everybody looking towards a hopeful future. There's hope for Riggs because he may not know it yet, but he's already found a family. He's now part of the Murtaugh family, and he has hope that someday he can find happiness of his own. Both Riggs and Murtaugh have reaffirmed the importance of families in both of their lives, and they've shown to what lengths they will go to protect that family. We have a movie about regaining hope and reaffirming the value and importance of family in our lives. I don't know about y'all, but that screams Christmas movie to me. I was taught when making creative decisions, you always needed two justifications. The first one could be, I like it. But the second one had to be a reasoned argument that would convince somebody that this was a good idea. So I just put forward my reasoning why I think Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie. Put down in the comments if you think I'm right. Well, I have no clue what I'm talking about. At any rate, I hope I've given you all something to think about. Until next time, y'all have a good one.
Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment.